You guys have to understand. As a bird, it is very conflicting for me to have to watch Molly Macaw get decapitated. On one hand, that chick was crazy. She was trying to bite me. On the other hand, I was intruding on her nest. What? You didn't know the landing pad was her nest? Next you're going to tell me that you didn't know that Molly Macaw wasn't actually a macaw. Hello again people, and welcome back to Indigo Park, the most innovative and engaging family fun experience. Following the positive reception from my first Indigo Park video, I have decided to make 2 more. Today, the first video, we'll be talking about the fate of the mascots of Indigo Park. Who are they, what are they, and why do they want to attack us? The mascots of Indigo Park which have been shown so far are Rambely the Raccoon, Molly Macaw, Finnely the Sea Serpent, Lloyd the Lion, and Salem the Skunk. I decided not to include Salem in my first Indigo Park video for many specific reasons, but I have decided to dedicate an entire separate video to Salem to talk about those reasons. For now, let's just focus on the main cast. Finnely, Lloyd, and Molly are all present in the park, in electronic forms and physical forms. However, these versions of the mascots appear to be separate. In the Rambely railroad ride, we see on several occasions that the physical form of Molly Macaw is stalking us. If you didn't know, Molly stalks you for a very long time. You can hear her as early as right before you get your critter cuff.
Oh, silly Rambly. Every guest needs a critter cuff. I think there's some in the gift shop. Head in there and I'll get you set up.
She continues to follow you as you move deeper into the park. You can see her running away before you reach the train. You can see her looking through hidden doorways during the ride. And she also stalks you before you enter backstage at Lloyd's Theater. She really knows her way around the place, doesn't she? It's only when she finds you in the depths of Molly's landing pad is when she finally attacks. Lloyd is a similar situation, although he isn't as subtle as Molly. We enter Lloyd's Theater and find him sleeping. When he wakes up, he quickly runs away instead of attacking us. Lloyd stalks us as well, but it isn't until we get close to the door with the key to Jetstream Junction that he attacks. He does jump out and swipe at us before we get the key, but unfortunately he is impeded by a falling box. For some reason, that stops him. I'm not sure if you know this, but lions are excellent jumpers. The average adult lion can jump around 12 feet vertically and about 36 feet horizontally. Granted, they are at top speed. The backstage area is pretty cramped, but even so, this box falling on Lloyd would have been a mild inconvenience at best. Sure, you could argue he is in pain from the falling box, but he seems to escape the box and attack you later just fine. When Lloyd sees you are about to leave, he runs up behind you and grabs your arm. But before he can do anything, a loud, high-pitched noise can be heard coming from the critter cuff. This noise then deters Lloyd and makes him run away. The critter cuffs are very interesting. They have the capacity to measure heart rates, changes in body temperature, and can track the movement of whoever is wearing them. Supposedly, some versions of the critter cuff can even resuscitate people. This would mean that some critter cuffs can dish out anywhere from 200 to 1000 volts of electricity. The fact that these things were mass-produced and given to every guest would imply that guests needed this extra level of security during the park's heyday. Let's get down to the real reason why these mascots exist. Before, Indigo Park would use traditional mascots, people in costumes, to entertain guests at the park. Listening to an audio clip Rambly never noticed before, we can hear 2 employees complaining about the new mascots.
Hey Jackson, you hear about the new mascots?
Man, screw this place. I say we get our asses out of here and go straight to Vegas.
Also, before anyone mentions this, I know it's a reference to a FNAF fan game. However, I also know that the creator of Indigo Park is smart enough to know that not everyone played that specific fan game. So, while I know he wanted to pay homage to that game, I am also sure this dialogue was made to give story information at the same time. Indigo Park was about to replace their normal mascots with something different, something new, something out of a dream. Real-life versions of our favorite characters. Molly, Finnely, Lloyd, and presumably Salem as well. All of them would receive brand new, realistic appearances to help them make the guests' dreams come true. However, with this incredible level of security and the park closing down 8 years ago, we can only assume that these new mascots were not a success. It didn't fall apart initially. Supposedly, it worked out for a while. However, there were some issues. While being chased by Molly, we can hear her parrot voice lines that she has heard in the past.
Get up, you stupid freak. Get back in your cage, bird.
These lines imply that those who handled Molly did not do so with the love that Molly deserved. Instead of full-on enclosures, Molly, as well as the others, were kept in cages until it was time to show them off. Come to think of it, we don't see places for any enclosures for the mascots. To be fair, we have only seen a small glimpse of the park, but it doesn't seem like there is any space for the mascots to safely roam around. Unfortunately, this is what leads us to our first big realization. The mascots we meet in Chapter 1 are not animals. They are humans who were genetically altered to become these new mascots. Now I know what you're thinking. Really? Molly isn't actually a bird? What tipped you off to that? But seriously, I think a lot of people have been assuming up until this point that the mascots were animals that had been altered, and I can say with certainty that is not the case. They were human once, and Molly is the key to knowing why. Quick disclaimer. If you've been watching me for a while, you'll notice that I reference animals and animal science from time to time. Truth be told, I actually wanted to be an environmental scientist at one point, but that's a story for another time. I just wanted to let you know that while I know more than most about biology, I am not an official expert on the matter. With that being said, Molly should not have hands. No, seriously, she has hands, like digits and everything, and she should not have them. Let me give you all a brief science lesson on homologous structures. Homologous structures pertain to the similarities between animals who share a common ancestor. This can be represented in things like skeletal structure. Most mammals actually have a similar bone structure. It's just that these bones are formed in different ways. We see similarities in bones when comparing humans, bats, dogs, horses, and, you guessed it, birds. However, the reason why we know that Molly was not born a bird is the fact that she has fingers. If she was a bird and then mutated to become what she is now, then there is no way that she would have ever been able to grow hands in the first place. Look at this comparison of bone structure between animals. Birds have similar bones, but we can clearly see that the phalanges are not as distinguished as the human hand. This is where the wings would be, but we can clearly see that Molly has wings and hands at the same time. She uses these hands well, in fact. She grabs the wall when she stalks us. She knows how to use these digits. You may be saying, oh, that's just fingers. No, the arm is human-like as well. Actually, come to think of it, if we're talking anatomically, it just looks like somebody stapled a bunch of feathers onto a human arm. This isn't the only thing that can tip us off about the mascots being altered humans. The mascots actually do not act like their counterparts 100%. Yes, Molly does decide to attack you once you enter her landing pad, which could be considered her nest. Macaws are very territorial of their homes, and they do get angry when they feel like their babies are threatened. The landing pad is clearly a play place for children, and I honestly feel like Molly attacks us because she feels like her chicks are in danger. Molly watches you from the shadows, but more importantly, she watches you from places that are seemingly secret, backstage, out of sight. Places only an employee of the park would be able to access, because they had the knowledge. Also, no offense, but Lloyd is the worst hunter ever, or at least he doesn't hunt like a lion would hunt. A lion would jump over those boxes with ease, and also, if Lloyd was actually just a big lion, he would have pounced on you when you were trying to leave. But instead, he grabs your arm after running up to you. That's not what a lion would do. Might I add, he runs up to you on 2 legs. This leads me to believe with confidence that these mascots used to be human. So, we have humans, potentially old workers, who were transformed into these new mascots. They still retain some of their human characteristics, but they can't help but act like wild animals at the same time. Who is responsible for this? Some people are saying it was Issac Indigo, but he has been dead for a long time. There is a chance that he could still be alive. Issac Indigo is clearly based off of Walt Disney, and there is a rumor regarding Walt Disney that his head has been kept preserved for several years. This could be why Rambely is so keen on restoring power to the park. He wants to bring his creator back to life. Others think it might be Salem, but I don't think so. Like I said, Salem will get their own video in the future. The only suspects that remain are a potential third party we haven't been introduced to yet, or the little guy himself, Rambley the Raccoon. It is an interesting coincidence that Rambely is the only mascot that hasn't completely lost his mind yet, and considering how much control he has over things in the park, it's easy to see him abuse his power to stop the mascots from acting out. This nefarious bait and switch would also explain why Rambely has no remorse after decapitating his supposed best friend, Molly. Truly, I don't think this is the case. In a past livestream, the creator of Indigo Park said, and I quote, "Rambely will not turn evil," unquote, which by itself could be interpreted in a bunch of different ways. Will he not turn evil because he's already evil? Or is he not going to turn evil because he is in fact forced to make a pragmatic choice? Here's the thing. I don't think Rambely is evil, but I do think what happened at Indigo Park was Rambly's fault. There are a few instances in Chapter 1 where Rambly gets these ideas, and I can't help but think that Rambly is a pretty advanced AI for being able to string together these ideas by himself. In fact, come to think of it, what was Rambly's purpose anyway? Sure, having an interactive AI to greet guests could make the park more engaging, but why would they spend so much money on a super advanced greeter? That's just it. Rambly wasn't designed to greet the guests. There are cameras all over Indigo Park, and Rambly presumably has access to all of them. There are places he can't go or see, and there are things he can't do without a human user's approval, but he does have special privileges regardless. I think the most telling bit of info comes from Rambly's song, which plays during the end credits.
I'm here to offer my best to each valuable guest I assist, and lots of happy feedback ensures I get to exist.
Rambly was designed to watch guests, interact with them, and identify ways to improve the park, mainly through surveys. However, if the park were to stop getting good reviews, then it is very likely that Rambly would have been replaced or even deleted. I don't think Rambly had a choice. He's an AI that has been given a task, and if he did not complete this task to the letter, he would be removed. So, let's just say the park is having some trouble. The toys aren't flying off the shelves like they used to be. What is making the guests unhappy? Well, from the way it sounded, the mascots did not feel like they were being appreciated. Resentment like that can bleed into the way they treat the customers. This would then cause guests to complain about the mascots in their surveys. This caused the overall guest number in the park to decrease, and Rambly panicked. He had to come up with an idea to make these new mascots to replace the old ones, and like most AI nowadays, his solution wasn't the most ethical. Morals are not a priority over completing its task, especially when destruction is the punishment for failure. I believe that after thinking and planning, Rambly gets the idea to make the mascots real. Under the impression that these new mascots replace their coworkers, the workers who remained did not treat the new mascots with love and care. Eventually, they broke out, and soon thereafter the park shuts down and Rambly is left confined to the entrance. How did Rambly do it? I have no idea, and if I came up with any explanation, it would just be made up because we don't have the details. If you'll allow me to speculate a little bit more, I am suspicious over this black viscous goo that we can see in many different places around the park. This stuff is everywhere, but to be honest, it might just be some random stuff put onto the terrain to make everything look more dirty and gross. I have noticed that there was a larger amount of it in Salem's destroyed section of the Rambely Railroad. Unique Geese did say that there are things in Chapter 1 that set things up in future chapters that aren't initially clear, so maybe this black goo we see everywhere is a hint to how the new mascots were changed. Perhaps it is some sort of new material that we don't know about yet, and it is the key to why these mascots were transformed. However, just to reiterate, this is speculation. I do not have any evidence to back this claim. I just thought it was very interesting that this black goop showed up in many different places around the park. I believe that Rambly is responsible for the mutations of these park employees, and he did this to try to keep the park in good standing and keep himself from being deleted. So, where does this all lead now? It's clear that Rambly wants to get the park back up and running, but to what end? Doesn't he know that it takes more than just electricity to rebuild and relaunch an amusement park? Rambly is pretty smart, so he would know this, right? Maybe he does know this, and relaunching the park isn't actually what he wants to do. Perhaps, hidden deep underground underneath Indigo Park lies the frozen and preserved body of Issac Indigo. Perhaps at the end of this game, we will see the revived Issac Indigo, and Rambly will use his knowledge of biology to bring him back to life. So, what do you think? Is Rambly trying to resurrect his creator? Is he trying to atone for his fallen friends and give them the peace they deserve? Or is it something else entirely? I hope you all enjoyed this. Next time we'll be talking about Salem. Thank you all so much for watching. Goodbye.